This is just a constant reminder to everyone out there and to myself that you're not doing as bad as you think financially. I know at times things happen that comes up, things with your job. Maybe you're not making as much money, but I want you to know that you're doing a lot better than you think. And the first step, honestly, of everything is once just acknowledging what is there. No matter how much amount the debt is, how big it is, how far it might seem out of reach, it's just understanding that there is a problem there and that you're trying to fix it. And I've learned now that even though things in my life or your life or anybody's life might be going not in the way you expected it to, that is okay because life is not a full timeline stop of when you're supposed to just have it all figured out and just have it right there. Sometimes there's going to be, moments in your life where things happen unexpectedly and you weren't going to know that that was going to happen. And you just have to be okay with that because, everyone's timeline and destiny is different. And it kind of just made me think about, that all our lives are already planned in advance, you know, through the power of God and everything too. So it's like the stuff you're going through, you're not just going through it for a certain reason. You know what I mean? You're going through it because it was in the plan to begin with. And so, you're not doing as bad as you think because honestly, there's always going to be someone who's doing worse. Even people that have more money, some people aren't happy. Some people would rather trade all that in for some peace and joy in their lives. We see famous people talk about it all the time how they wish they could just be normal sometimes and just walk in a grocery store. But because of their fame, they can't do it no more. Their lives have changed. Even with all the money and stuff, there's like little small stuff that they can't enjoy no more due to being famous. And, vice versa. There's stuff that, people who aren't famous would want to enjoy of a famous person. And so on this route and journey to being debt free, you tend to find different things and trying to figure out new loopholes, new ways to cut corners, new ways to cut costs, new ways to pay things off. And through the journey and stuff, you tend to just realize like, oh, like I'm not even doing as bad as I think I was, you know. And we tend to cause and have these new obstacles and barriers in our minds and like these fake scenarios and just different obstacles that really don't need to be there. We stress out about all these different things like, oh, I need this done by that, I need this done by this. But in reality, sometimes like you're rushing it or you're trying to put this worry on your mind to get it done faster. But also, it's like, you know, you don't always have to have that rush in your mind. Now, is it okay and good to have a goal and a plan and deadlines? Yeah, that's definitely fine. However, sometimes, just the worry part can be an issue because all you can really do is take things day by day and one step at a time. And that's the only best way to really do things when it comes to stuff because there's only certain things you can do in one day at a time, So that's why you can only focus on one day at a time. Like you can't worry about what you have to do 5 days from now because it's not 5 days from now yet. Now, when 5 days from now comes, you can worry about it. When 2 years from now comes, you can worry about it. But in the Bible too, like Jesus talks to us and tells us about how you shouldn't worry too much all the time about things, about your clothes, about the food you eat, about all these different things. Is money important? Yes, it is. But it's also like you can't sit back and be anxious all the time and worry. You got to worry about tomorrow. For now, just worry about today because today has enough problems of its own. And that's so important because it makes you just have a different mentality, thinking like, oh, like yeah, I have all these things going on. I'd love to get it done by the end of the year per se. I have all these goals. I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but however, what can you do today to get you one step closer there? If all you can do today is this specific thing, that's all you can do. Nothing else you can worry about. Sometimes I'll be thinking about my paycheck days in advance before I get paid. Like, oh, when this paycheck comes, I got this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But until then, that paycheck's not here yet. So what am I going to do today to be okay with what I have right now before that paycheck comes in? And that kind of allows you to kind of get out of that paycheck by paycheck cycle because you're not always focusing on what to do immediately on your paycheck, especially if you have things automated where you're paying yourself as well too, and you're doing the right things with your money. Like you don't always have to be looking at it all the time. I feel like I would always check my bank account like 30 times a day, and I'd be like, man, like my bank account is not changing unless I spend some money. Like it's not gonna change. It's gonna stay the same amount. But sometimes I always look at it like worried, like some random expense is gonna come out of nowhere that caught me off guard. But I know all my bills. I know what days all my bills are set. You know what day they pay for them. Like, I know all of them. So why am I so worried about some random transaction that's not gonna happen unless I made it happen? Now, granted, there's fraudsters and stuff out there too, so that could happen. But I've been pretty good on having no fraud or anything, so that's been a blessing. But yeah, I don't need to always check all the time because nothing's gonna change in that bank account. Like the money's not gonna get higher or lower. Like it's just gonna stay where it is, stay stagnant. And sometimes I think that's important is just have some days where your bank account doesn't change, it doesn't go up or down. And sometimes I feel like as humans we have this kind of brain mentality of consumption where it's like, oh, if I don't spend a day spending absolutely nothing, like I'm gonna go insane because we have the minds of consumers who want to spend, spend, spend. That used to happen to me a lot too. Like I would go like a few days not spending anything, and I would like sort of questioning my sanity. Like I want to purchase something, but I learned now to find contentment and enjoyment in other things besides just spending money, and that has helped me a lot on my financial journey and getting to the next spot that I need to get to. And so, that's just a big thing. And everyone's life is different. We all go through different things and we all take it at different ways. But it's just more so understanding the comparison of others and realizing for yourself that you're not doing too bad, especially in your 20s where everything is kind of out of loop and fast and chaotic and always changing. It's just this weird new thing now where people are expecting to be something by a certain age now, like millionaires and stuff by like 21. And we have a huge hustle culture now where everyone's like, oh, like you need to spend all waking days awake working on your business, and 9 to 5 suck now and all this. We live in this era now where a lot of things are getting demoralized, and then you have AI taking jobs. It's just a bad economy in general. But still, through it all, you have to really learn more about yourself, because money is so much more psychological than it is about a spreadsheet. Like, yeah, like budgeting and stuff, all that is important. It is cool, but also, like, you really have to fix your mind and become that person who is really willing to go through some of these sacrifices and suffering. Because honestly, to be financially free, be debt free, you're going to have to sacrifice some things. You're not going to be able to do everything that someone else can do, in that moment. Now, will you be able to in the future? For sure. But right now, sometimes you have to chill off some of that. Some of my friends are bothered by me that, I don't go out to eat all the time sometimes. Do I love food and stuff? Yeah, I do. The Bible tells us to enjoy our food. But also, the Bible told us that ants stock up in the summer to prepare for winter. Like, you know, and I think that's important. I love how they said they stock up in the summer for winter, because a lot of people I feel like try to stack up in the winter to get ready for summer. But in the Bible, it's the opposite. And, that's cool little gist. But there's a lot of different financial stuff that gets talked about in the Bible that I've been loving as well, too. Reading. So definitely make sure you're getting your word as well. Read the Bible because it can definitely be important. And so, just on this life and this journey, you're going to be set back by a lot of things, but that's okay. That's what comes with the life. I know in due time it'll all make sense. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Even I'm telling this to myself as well too. Don't even do all that, and don't worry, and just keep doing your thing. Like you're really not even doing as bad as you think. Like you're really not. No matter what situation you're in, it can always be worse, and you have been worse. Like you've definitely been worse than where you're at. So, and what happened before, you got out of it. And so just like how you got out of that in the past, you'll get out of it now here. So don't always, trick yourself down and put yourself down, because that can definitely end up into a negative, depressing spiral in your head. And it's all just made up entirely from your head. Like no one told you those things. It was just thoughts that creeped up over time. And you have to learn to fix those and keep on moving anyway, no matter where the circumstances going on. So hope everyone continues this journey to being financially debt free. Keep moving. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.